Talk. I am your host, Christy Smallwood, Chief Strategic Guide of Eagle Eye Strategies, based here in Louisville, Kentucky. And I say here, it's like you're here, right here with me during this podcast. And Small Business Small Talk is all about sharing that small business experience, journey, adventure, if you will, of what it's like to be a business owner or somebody who's trying to even start a small business or they've been in business for 20, 30, 40 years and they've learned a lot and they just want to share that with you. But the thing about this small business journey is at a minimum, we're sharing that we are not alone in this, that we have a common thread among all of us, that we believe in what we're doing and we love our businesses and we love to help our communities as well. Small business definitely is a different feel than large corporations. And so what you learn from us is going to be all over the board of different things. So we tend to like to, we share the stories enough that it can educate you on some tactics. It's going to inspire you with some big ideas maybe, or at a minimum, we're going to make you feel like, I'm not the only crazy person around here who decided to be in business for themselves. Yeah, it could be like that too. So it's one of the things that I love to have these conversations with people literally from all over the world, So I'm, yet once again, super excited. I'm very excited, honestly, to have this guest that she is another repeat guest. So I had her on in the previous season in 2020, and it was amazing how I met her. This is the power of networking, people. Even on Facebook, when you're a part of a Facebook group, if you're proactively connecting in a genuine way to show genuine interest and saying, hey, how can we connect? How can we work together? This would be a cool thing to do. Serena was very willing to get on a podcast episode together to talk about what it was like for small business in 2020 in Cheltenham, Gloucestershire, England. And it was amazing, all of the similarities that we were having here in Louisville, Kentucky, compared to Cheltenham. And it was both refreshing and sad because the fact that we're all going through this 2020 global pandemic and how it's affecting businesses and communities. But it was also it felt good to not be alone. Like, you realize, yes, it really is happening everywhere and people are struggling in all of the things. And so 2020 was that interview with her. I highly recommend go back and listen to that. It was it was very introspective in the sense of, well, just again, learning different tactics that they may be doing in different communities, and not just different communities in the US, but also in England, across the big pond, as we say. Now, there are a couple of things that we talk about in this interview that I wanted to make sure I clarified ahead of time. Because while I was talking with Serena, I was like, I don't know the answer to this, and I don't want to look like an idiot because I don't know the answer. I should probably know the answer because I'm a business owner and I'm a business coach. I should probably know more about this. I don't know. So internally, that was my thought bubble that was going through. So I want to preface this with a couple of clarifications before you hear me make a fool of myself on this podcast. So a couple of things that we talk about is definitely COVID, and specifically the latest Delta variant. So the Delta variant is the newest COVID strain. So it's from that COVID experience that we're all very much well aware of, and it is the latest strain of that. So it has evolved itself over time, as viruses tend to do, apparently. It's just a new strain. So I didn't know during this interview with her exactly what was happening in the US. I'd heard it, hadn't gotten enough information on it. For those of you who have not met me or don't know me yet, I'm not on a news channel every day. It's not my thing. I don't listen to it all day, every day, because it annoys the shit out of me. So I don't. I'm up on things enough to know that something's happening. If I need to know more, I proactively go after it. Otherwise, I don't need that all up in my peaceful little bubble over here. So I'm aware it's happening, but I didn't know to the level. So I did a little searching, and our first Delta variant case in the US was diagnosed in March, and it is now in July the dominant strain in the US, and that's according to Yale Medicine. and I'll include the link to the article in the show notes. So, just from March to July, even if you've been vaccinated, knowing that this thing has become the dominant strain over the original, what they're calling alpha strain of COVID, that it will, what is it, highly, contagious. This is the only word I can come up with. It's not the same word that they're using in these articles, but it's super easy to transmit. That's what easily transmittable, highly contagious. So it is going to spread faster than the original strain of COVID did. So there you go. There you have it. If you're interested, go find out more. Be safe out there. Watch what you're doing. Just I would say common sense, but not everybody's got common sense anymore. Common sense is not so common, let's just say. All right. So aside from this Delta variant thing, so that's what it is. Because I didn't think it was that big of a deal in the US, but once I started looking, the recent reports just from a couple of days ago when I recorded this, so it's the first part of July, it is now officially already that big of a deal, apparently. So the other thing we talk about is how employment has been affected. And I made a comment about minimum wage. Now, as a business owner, I've been hearing all of the rumblings out there about raising minimum wage to $15 an hour. I have tons of opinions based on how a budget spreadsheet works for a business on how raising that to $15 an hour is going to affect everybody. That opinion does not need to be stated here. That could be over a bourbon or something. However, what I thought it was already in place. This is how behind I am. I just assumed, which is not the thing to do ever. Nobody should ever be assuming anything because you know what happens, right? Just write it out and figure it out. If you've never been taught that, let's talk because I'll show you. So anyway, I had made the assumption in my head, and because I got the information, here's typically how I work. I'm full throttle all the time to my detriment sometimes. So I know that there's been talk about it. I did not know if it was official, federally or statewide. I didn't know. I just know, okay, if I were to pay my people, so applying as a business owner, how does it affect me? I need to be getting my people to $15 an hour. So I'm already in that vein of thought that I know I need to be there because I need a living wage anyway. So come to find out, here's the actual facts of the situation. So the state of Kentucky, the official minimum wage is $7.25. I honestly thought it was 10. So regardless, $7.25 was what I made 20 years ago. That's ridiculous. So aside from that, the Sunshine State, so Florida, is the first that will eventually raise its minimum wage to $15 an hour via ballot measure. Florida's minimum wage will increase to $10 an hour on September 30 of 21, excluding Washington, D.C.'s $15 an hour excluding Washington, D.C.'s $15 hourly minimum wage. California has the highest in the country at $14 an hour. So that is from when I did a Google search, I think that's U.S. News. That is a U.S. News article bite from April 30th, 2021. So the state of Kentucky being at $7.25 and California is at $14 an hour. For those of you who are living in those areas, we usually refer that to the cost of living. We know that in Kentucky, real estate is a whole lot cheaper than it is in California. So that goes back to my original, I have opinions about how raising the minimum wage affects a budget spreadsheet for a business as well as the rest of the community, because it is a trickle down thing. So it will affect everything. Everything has to go up if we raise the minimum wage. So, or aside from that, that's the official take on what minimum wage looks like in at least Kentucky, my state, in comparison to what's currently going on out there. So it's not an official thing yet. This is where they want it to go. And by the way, I pay my people above minimum, well above Kentucky minimum wage. So just Kentucky, come on now, come on. That's just ridiculous. So anyway, with that, I am very happy to introduce you to Serena Gay. She is, I had such a delightful conversation with her the first time, and this time was no exception. We had a great conversation. I hope you get a lot out of it. Her background is in making podcasts. So she does podcasts, audio editing, all of that kind of stuff. She is like I said before, she is based in England. She's in Cheltenham, Gloucestershire, and she has Made For You podcasts. That's her business. In 2020, she had a series called Business Revival in Gloucestershire. And that's the one that we shared the podcast interview with, so that we had the back and forth, what things were going like, the state of small business in our communities comparison, if you will. And so now she has a new podcast called Podcast Launchpad. And she does podcasting education, like teaching people how to do their own podcasts and all the things it takes and helping you be a better voice on podcasting. And so all of the things it takes to do podcasting, she's now training for that. So I highly recommend you guys check into her. It's Serena Gay, and I'll put all of her information in our show notes so that way you've got something to tap into with that. And without further ado, here is my interview with Serena Gay.
So first of all, Serena, thank you so much for meeting with me again. You and I met last year, November, December, and it was a wonderful way to have a conversation about the state of small business across, do we still call it the big pond?
I do. Okay. I think people understand what it means, don't they?
Well, maybe of a certain age like me, I do still get it. I understand what that is. But for those of you who don't know, Serena is actually am I going to say it right? She's in Cheltenham.
Correct.
Which is Gloucestershire?
Gloucestershire, correct.
Wow.
Well done, girl.
Thank you. Look, people have a hard enough time saying Louisville. So, because there's different ways that you can say that. Yeah. And it's Louisville, not Louisville or Louisville. It's Louisville.
And I still have problems with that. So the fact that you've got Cheltenham correct and Gloucestershire is very impressive, because I really have a problem with Louisville. But anyway, I'll do my best.
That's pretty good.
It just doesn't seem right to me, as somebody who's a French speaker. To me, it should be Louisville. But anyway, I'll go with the way that you people say it. I'll do my best.
It's like we try to tell people it's like having marbles in your mouth when you say it.
Okay, maybe I'll just avoid. I'll just refer to Kentucky,
yeah,
and that'll be fine.
Exactly. So tell me, how are things in the world over there? So we focused a lot on the small business experience when we talked last time, and what had happened, how it affected everybody in your area, what people were doing to be innovative, and how to pivot, and how all of that was playing about. So give me some of those updates. Has there been a comeback? How's that going?
Well, it's kind of sad in that that June started off so optimistically, and everyone was, had high hopes for it. But things started off well. People started, going out to restaurants, and well, you couldn't really go to the theatre, but they started going out to pubs and restaurants and basically spending their money. And then, unfortunately, the Delta variant hit the UK and is hitting it quite badly, to the extent that our economic recovery has definitely been affected by it. And if you look at the graph, that graph that goes up and down showing how many cases of COVID a country is experiencing.
Right.
You know, it really has shot up in this country. And although thanks to the fact that so many of us are now inoculated and therefore not actually needing to go to hospital, nevertheless, it's taking its toll, and it's taken its toll on our economic recovery. So now everybody is saying, okay, June was not, you know, June was a bit of a damp squib. Hopefully in July, once, you know, on the 19th, most of the restrictions are going to be lifted, so that I think the two meters restriction will go. I don't think people will be required to wear masks any longer, although that's kind of in the balance. People will be able to go back to their offices. People will be able to go out to eat more easily and go out to pubs more easily. I think July should see more of a comeback for the British economy. So yeah, so that's where we stand. It is a little bit kind of a bit of a sad story, as I say. What about with you?
It's interesting because I'm hearing you, like, you still have restrictions. And Kentucky, I've mentioned Governor Andy before. We're one of the last ones to kind of lift any sort of real restrictions. We still have, so everything is now, if you've been vaccinated, you don't have to wear masks. If you've not been vaccinated, it's recommended that you wear masks. So it's not, so we don't know, like, nobody's walking around checking papers, thank God, because that's a whole different kind of subject. So pretty much 99% of people are walking around mask free, and the restrictions have been lifted on the number of people, like in the restaurants, and things have opened back up pretty much. And so we don't have a ton of information yet about Delta. We keep hearing that we're still in the state of it's coming. Like, it's not like hit. We don't have the numbers. We don't have a ton of information yet. So I'll be interested to see now that you and I are talking about it, I will probably see it everywhere. But as far as like our economic recovery, I was just prior to our interview on with our Federal Reserve does webinars. And so I was watching the labor market, how that was going to bounce back or not. And so the difference between the temporary unemployment status and a permanent unemployment status, and it's very large, but we're already seeing recovery of that. So it means people are switching jobs, going back to jobs, you know, having the unemployment insurance stuff happening. So our economy, while it you know, tanked there for a little bit, we're already seeing, we're very impatient people in this country, and we're back out. And we're going to get out there. We're going to do that, probably to our own detriment at some point. But here we go.
Well, I hope not. I mean, the fact is that the Delta variant is almost like a different disease in some ways. I mean, there are, especially for people who are double vaccinated, if you catch it, and you can. A friend of mine caught it recently, and she's really not at all well. I mean, she won't be hospitalized, but even with the double vaccination, she still caught it. So it's terribly easily transferred, and there are different symptoms, and generally it seems to have flown through the country. I mean, it is quite disturbing, and I do hope for your sake in the States that you manage to avoid it, but I don't suppose that the world can avoid it because of its very nature, you know. But going back to jobs and things, which is quite interesting. I mean, one of our problems with resuscitating our economy is filling job vacancies, funnily enough. We've got loads of job vacancies and not enough people to fill them. And could that have something to do with Brexit and the fact that so many Europeans have now left the United Kingdom to go home? And of course, they probably would have left it anyway because of the pandemic. And, you know, so that was kind of goes hand in hand. But we are having enormous problems filling jobs in the hospitality world, particularly, and in other areas like lorry driving. Well, you don't call them lorries, do you? Truck drivers. You need truck drivers.
It's like, what is a lorry?
What is a lorry. Okay, well, you see, I'm bilingual in US English and UK. It comes from working with Americans for many years when I lived in Berlin. But we can't even find enough truck drivers, and of course that's a massive problem, isn't it? Because how do you get your goods from, or your agricultural goods from the farm to the shops? I mean, nightmare. So it'll be very interesting to see how we actually proceed along this whole route that we've taken since we left the European Union, of who we let in terms of the employment world. So having stopped allowing the Europeans to come and work here, are we now going to have to actually loosen up a bit on that? But so it's so difficult for an economy to revive if you don't have enough people to fill the jobs.
We're having a similar feel over here. But the interesting thing is we have plenty of people and we have plenty of jobs, but the jobs are not getting filled. So there's a lot of factors to it. We've had I don't know if it's become official yet. I probably need to look into that, probably because I just already assumed I need to pay my people at least $15 an hour. That's a minimum wage. Our minimum wage prior to that was like $7 to $10 an hour. So we're trying to get that minimum wage up to a livable wage, enough that somebody could at least rent an apartment and have a life, kind of thing. And so there's a lot of back and forth about having a minimum wage job versus a job that would require probably some education, or at least education in a training in a trade. And then there's also the factor of what has been pushed over the past 10 years. Is it to get the white collar education, or is it to get training in a trade that requires maybe, manual labor, which is more appealing? So having the right. And I'm not the one that says, oh, they're young and they're lazy, they don't want to work. That's not the case. I mean, we've trained them over the past 10 to 20 years that find the right fit for you. And so now that the pandemic has hit, I've had a lot of conversations with people who are still out of the air quote, out of a job. However, what that means for them is that they're looking for their right job. And it's just really hard on the individual level to find what they would love to do again, or for the first time ever. Maybe they've always just had the job to have a job. And so now they're looking for their right fit, and that right fit may not be out there. And so there's just so many things. And then the most popular frustration is the fact that we do have this extended unemployment insurance. And that unemployment that the government gives, it's a payment. So if you're unemployed, the government's going to give you some money to get by on, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And I'm sure we've talked about this before, and I think it's called something different in
unemployment benefit is what we call it.
You guys call it benefit.
Yeah.
It's insurance over here. Okay. And so unfortunately, that payment has been more than what some people actually make at a job.
Yeah.
And so the benefit of staying home on unemployment is higher than trying to find a job and going back to work.
Yeah.
And so we're struggling with a lot of those factors just to get people back into work. And then, of course, like you said, the truck drivers, we have that same issue here. Distribution has just been obviously behind everywhere. So Amazon being one of our largest companies, obviously in distribution here, we used to be able to, pre-pandemic, you could get, if you were on their Amazon Prime subscription, you could get same day service on deliveries and next day service for deliveries for free if you were a part of the membership. That's just how they have their logistics throughout the country. They've got distribution centers centrally located.
They offer the same here in this country. Yeah.
So now I don't, as a member I pay that monthly fee to get free shipping. I don't get next day service anymore. It's at least a 3-day trip.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a huge
Whoa.
difference.
Yeah, that is. And they would say, Amazon would say it's because we just can't find the drivers. Is that right?
Yeah, there's just, well, and you think about the behavior in which we've lived in 2020, we've purchased stuff to have delivered versus usually we would go out and get.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's this
Okay.
overwhelm of work and not enough people to do all of the work now. And yeah, it's just that spreading out. And every industry has been like that. We even had, so one of my friends works in a furniture retail store here in Louisville, and the distribution is one issue. The where it comes in, so there are some things that are made in China that are still stuck in a crate at the port because they can't get it off the boat. And then there is the fact that apparently all the foam to make, so foam seating,
Yes.
it comes from a specific manufacturer.
Yes.
That manufacturer happened to be located in Texas, where last year they had an ice storm
Oh, yes.
and
I
it
remember.
knocked out that plant. And so there's been no foam for a while. So foam prices in this country have skyrocketed.
My gosh.
Yeah.
Well, we've had the same. I mean, I suppose it's a problem that Amazon suffers as well with cardboard, because so many people were ordering stuff to be delivered during the pandemic, and still they arrive in cardboard boxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
oh yeah.
People are running out of cardboard. so I don't know. I don't know how they're coping, but there was a lot of news about it at the time, and it made me laugh. Actually, well, I shouldn't say laugh, but somebody I know, who was the owner of a cardboard factory, sold the factory maybe a couple of years ago now for a lot of money. But oh my goodness, if he'd hung on to it for a little bit longer, he'd be even richer today, because he could have sold his cardboard for, treasure. Amazing.
Who would have thought?
who would have thought that we would be living through this? Anyway, I don't know about you, but I suppose because I'm set that way, but I do feel that we are coming out of this now. That, I don't know about the United States. I know that you've had a very effective inoculation campaign, and certainly it's been massively successful in this country. I mean, I was just looking at the figures today. Over 45 million of our 66 million population have now been inoculated at least once. And it's in no time, I mean, just in a few months, we will have, reached an even larger number, so much so that herd immunity is hopefully, on the horizon. And my feeling is, by the end of this year, Christmas is just going to be a lot more comfortable and much more likely to be spent with our families than the last two Christmases have been. What's your feeling?
The same, although our numbers I don't think are as percentage wise as high.
Okay.
And I know that state by state it's going to look differently.
Yeah.
We've got some states who are like, we don't care, we still don't care. But it's all just, and I could say that flippantly, but like they've not hit a 2/3. So our goal in Kentucky is to hit 2/3. Okay. And I know one of the things that they've implemented to incentivize getting inoculated is to do a lottery. So you get your vaccination.
Oh, very good idea.
You could potentially win $1 million. Now, side note, where do we have $1 million laying around?
Yeah. Oops.
But I mean,
it's a brilliant idea.
Brilliant idea. I'm just not sure of the execution of that, but that's okay. I'm not the one managing that budget.
What worries me is that if the Delta variant does make it over to the United States, I mean, it is much more transmissible than the previous versions of COVID. And, for people who are bypassing the vaccination process, they're more likely to catch it and will they then have to go to hospital, and will the hospitals cope? I suppose that's what worries me.
So it looks like we do have some, but it's very low in the Delta variant. Yeah.
Okay. Well, long may that be the case, long may be that. Maybe you'll get by without it really making itself felt, but it has really ripped through this country really fast. If you look at the figures, it started off in the west of the country, and I think that was because we have quite a number of Indian immigrants, and I think it came in with them from India, on trips to and fro. I may be doing them a disservice by saying this, but that's the idea that I have, and that having then arrived in this country, it then just tore through from west to east, and now we're seeing the east of the country kind of suffering the worst with it, whereas in the west figures are beginning to die down, and I'm in the west, so I'm very, very relieved about that. Yeah, so anyway,
they are just kind of skimming through some of the doctor's notes in articles of things that they are doing the double inoculation, making sure you have it twice, and this is why there's become so many incentives to make sure that we get vaccinated. So as that, because you're right, it's a virus, it is going to rip through at some point, and so then what? And I think we have our state of small business well-being, so to speak, our small businesses around here, we're definitely on high alert, but we're now at how much can we get accomplished while we can be out? It's a little bit
of
that. Our networking events, we're doing local networking events again. Workshops are out, all of these different things, and so people are
they
out? Yes.
We haven't quite got back to, well, I think we're on the cusp, people starting to meet face to face, but we haven't done it yet. So how many weeks have you been back meeting people in the flesh then?
So, and in our state of Kentucky, we've been pretty open since mid-June. So at the point of this conversation, maybe about 4 weeks now.
Okay.
Indiana, so right across the river, they've been open for about a month longer.
Really?
Yeah. So this is the interesting part, because it's only a river that separates us. So it's not, people can go back and forth all they want. So as restaurants opened and the mask mandate was taken away in Indiana, they saw an influx of people coming over from Louisville to be able to go, quote unquote, freely eat in a restaurant with friends and family, and then they would come back home. So this is how that was going to it's just going to happen across the river, because people are going to do that. But once we've opened up over here, gosh, I've been at 3-4 live events now already in the past month.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah, it's been very nice. I'm not gonna lie to you.
So really, I can't wait to get back to that kind of level of flesh sort of reunions. I can't wait.
Our most popular phrase is, "You have legs."
I think that's lovely. But I've got a 99-year-old aunt who turns 100 on August the 21st. And so, of course, we're planning a party for her and hoping to God that she doesn't. Well, she does have falls, and we're hoping to God she doesn't have one of those. And we're just hoping she's around and able to enjoy it. And we're going to have a big family party. And that's going to be our first get together in, I don't know, a whole year. I mean, I know it's going to be my first big party in a long time. And I'm really looking forward to it. But of course, that's my personal life, not the business stuff that we're meant to be talking about here. But I am quite excited about it.
Look, we bring our whole selves to our business.
But tell me about your business, though, Christy. How have you been doing with it over the last few months? Have you been able to keep going despite the restrictions, or despite the problems?
The beautiful thing is technology, when it works well. And my, I work with
It
small
works a lot.
businesses
Yeah.
and they have issues that they need help with. And so I help
Yes.
solve problems and I provide services to get
Yeah.
the work done. So full marketing services, business coaching, training and development, that kind of stuff. Marketing has been a big deal. So marketing and sales work has been the forefront this past year because how do you keep the word? How do you keep people right coming to you, the business, even in this time? And so a lot of digital work has happened for sure. And I've still got people that are coming to me. They're like, you did so good with this. Can you help me with this? Current clients are, going deeper with me. I'm all up in their businesses, I like to say. And then other new clients are coming to me because the word is getting out, which is great. And I actually have added 2 part-time people to my staff.
Oh, very
Yeah, I
nice.
am no longer a solopreneur. I
Oh,
am, yeah, we're growing this.
brilliant.
And they're both virtual. So I'm
Mm.
still from my home office, they're from their home offices. And because I'm building it like this, I can have anybody all over the world. I can now find the right talent for my clients. It doesn't have to be in my office. And so it's a beautiful aspect too for my own business, knowing that I can put the right team together for the right projects.
Yeah.
So that's an added benefit to that. Plus now I'm personally with the business, I'm in a state, my business has been around on its own, stable for since 2018 is when I rebranded. And I told my team, and I've got another strategic partner out there. I said, okay, I am in your hands now. I'm ready to level up and I'm too close to it. I need to know where you see the gaps, what you think I should be doing, what. And the feedback I've gotten already is like, you hold back too much. Like, what do you mean I hold back too much? They're like, you're trying to be way too prim and proper and it's not coming across very well. Like, really? They're like, oh yeah. You need to just be your little edgy self and that'll help a lot. Like,
Okay. What do
okay.
they mean by being your edgy self? What does that mean exactly?
Well, here's the best phrase for it. I love Jesus, but I cuss a lot.
Oh, okay.
So there's some
Okay.
people, I may be too high energy for some. I may be very direct about things. I am
Good
very
to be direct. Good to be direct.
and
Good.
I try to soften it for people who I
No.
know like
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
thank you, Serena. I appreciate the extra validation. Because I've even noticed I'm like when I do like a training video, I try to keep it just very professional, very this. And I'm like, no, I need to talk to this video as if you're sitting across the table and you and I are having this conversation.
Okay.
That it comes across completely differently than if I'm trying to be like my competitors are on their videos. And so which they're like, you have to stop doing that. Like take, and like it's just my own insecurities. And this is what I work through with my own
Yeah.
clients. I'm like, we have to remove this insecurity so it'll open the floodgates for more business. So they've just turned the tables on me. And I'm like, oh man.
Yeah. But that's so constructive. And I mean, at another point, when we have another chat at a different time, I will, when we're talking about for my podcast, when we're talking to you, I think getting external feedback, especially when you're working more or less for yourself, is such a vital part of running your own business. And I'm probably really guilty of not going out and looking for that. Partly because I don't have the time, partly because I don't have the time to do anything about it, even if I did get criticism.
Well, there's that.
And partly because I might not agree with it.
You kind of got to be ready for not hearing what you want to hear.
Yeah, so anyway, but I admire you for making that, that effort to just to get out there and ask people to tell you what they think, but don't do yourself down for being direct, though, Christy. I think direct is so important, and so many small business people in this country anyway just don't get the direct thing and waste a lot of time beating about the bush and, you know, not getting to the point. And I feel very strongly about that. But one of my American friends, actually, the friend in North Carolina that I mentioned to you at the start of the start of our chat today, before we started recording, she said to me the other day, she said, you know, Serena, you're a very direct person. And nobody had ever said that to me before. And I went, oh, am I? Yeah, actually I am. And I'm proud of it. It's good. But maybe it's just not something we talk about in this country very much. But I do think that to have a clear line of where you want to go, what you want to say, is the key to success in business. That's
and it's interesting that you say that, because you're absolutely right. Those super successful people that have been doing it ahead of me for 20, 30 years, they're the ones that's making the million, billion bucks.
Yeah.
And they will say that, like, you have to live your authentic self.
I hate that phrase.
No.
I'm so pleased you put on a silly voice when you said it. If I hear it one more time said in a serious way, I'm just going to explode. It's just so like, what does it mean? What does it mean? Just be yourself. That's what you mean.
I don't even know what that is anymore.
Well, that's also a problem. Yeah, of course.
Right. So
Yeah.
like, I don't, for the past, when 2020 hit, it became a thing for me. I could manage to be myself in small spurts, but 2020 was like, I have to be videoed as much as possible because I have to be out here to get hired. And I was like, I can't be that all the time. That's scary to people.
Yeah.
I'm placing that assumption on everybody else. I'm doing it to myself. So I have to stop doing that. But my friend Amy had a great point yesterday. She said that she learned from somebody else and told her that, wouldn't it be, which is better, to have 100 solid clients that love you, never go anywhere, pay you the big bucks, or try to please the 100,000 that only buys transactionally and once that's it? And I'm like, I don't know the answer to that. She's like, who's going to serve you the longest and bring more in? I was like, probably the 100, because they're tight with me. She's like, that's the point. You find the 100 that mean something, the 100,000 could care less.
Yeah.
And she's like, when you're yourself,
That's a good one.
that the tight community, and I guess this Seth Godin talks about having that tribe.
Yeah.
And it's just having the tribe of people that are my people.
Yes.
And she's like, you need to just be yourself. And I've had people that will come to me and they've said out loud, Christy, I know you'll tell me the truth. That was like the biggest compliment I think I've ever got about my character, is that they knew I would tell them the truth. They may not like to hear it, but I will tell them.
They may not, but that does say a lot about what somebody thinks about you. Essentially what they're saying is, I trust your opinion. I mean, that's pure gold.
It really is. And so instead of trying to please people, I just need to be myself.
Yes.
And it's amazing how that all comes full circle sometimes about just small business. And it's been interesting too, that when I have these conversations across the table with my clients, with other small business people, we also talk about the difference between having that client relationship and the transactional relationship. So back to my furniture friend, she had inherited a marketing agency, and again, in air quotes, a marketing agency. And they're not fulfilling their duties. They're not doing what they're supposed to do, what they've agreed to do. They give her the runaround. They try to mansplain her. It's not a good, and she's used to working with me from a different company. So she's been asking me, and it's just transactional. They only do that which she asks for, instead of being proactively helping her drive traffic, grow the business.
I'm mixed up in a relationship like that at the moment as well, and it's driving me nuts, and I don't know what to do about it. I'm just not getting the service that I need.
It's a conversation to be had for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
it is.
and I will tell people, like, were the expectations set up front, and was everybody clear?
Yeah.
And if the answer is, well, we did this, I'm like, that's not clear to me. So we need to go back to that conversation. So she's been doing that and like setting those expectations. Well, we have to set the expectations with ourselves too.
Yeah.
And, through this whole pandemic and the pivoting and now coming back out, my expectation for myself in this business is, while I want to get out as much as I can, I am still going to be careful and pace myself.
Very wise. Well, I can actually see myself going a bit kind of, well, I could allow myself to lose it slightly and just go madly out networking because I haven't been doing it for the last 18 months, B, because my business, which is relatively young, really depends on face-to-face contact and, impressing people with what I can do. And I can see myself just losing it a bit by going out to too many networking events and not actually being seated in front of my console doing my audio editing and all the stuff that I need to do,
the actual work that has to get done.
Work, exactly, that has to get done. So yes, it's all going to be quite interesting, I think, how we all readjust to normal life. I mean, once it happens, don't you think? I mean, what is it going to look like, A, and B, are we going to be able, do we want it to be the same as it was? And if it is, are we going to lose control? I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. And what I find so extraordinary about all this is the global aspect is that every single human being on the planet is affected to some degree, especially business people, in exactly the same way. And that's seriously historic, isn't it? Has life ever been like that? Ever?
Not that we've been aware of.
No, that's right. Not that we've been aware of. I mean, of course, I suppose during the Second World War, the planet was kind of thrown asunder, and almost everybody was affected by it, but not everybody. So I think this pandemic is just extraordinary. It is really a moment of history. Anyway,
absolutely. And I do appreciate that you and I get to have this chat like this.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about, because you said audio editing, because you actually manage podcasts for other people. Like, you are the voice for other people's podcasts. Is that right?
But yes, I am. But I also teach podcasting skills, and I will audio edit other people's work if that's what they require me to do. But I have my most successful client podcast. I am actually the host of it, and I do literally everything for it. And it's extraordinarily time consuming, but I wouldn't use the word fun because of the subject matter of it. It's very serious. But it's quite a thing. And so really, when I call myself now a podcast launch consultant. So I will go in and I'll help people launch, get it off the ground, teach them how to teach them all the podcasting skills that they want from me, and then I'm available to help them on the production side. So they might ask me to host their podcast for them, or they might ask me to teach them how to script their podcast, or how to be a podcast voice, or how do they cut music in, or how do they do this, how do they do that. So I'm basically available for training, and then everything else to do with the podcast, which, as you know, is quite a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot.
There's a lot. Yeah. So that's what I do.
I love it. And I love that you help other people do that, because podcasting has finally become a thing that more and more people are aware of and getting into. And I love this medium myself, because I like to talk, and I like to talk with people, and I don't have to be the celebrity to do it.
Yes.
So it's also wonderful. And I get to make great connections like you.
Oh, well, I must say it's been great. It's been great fun. This has been a real sort of plus to the whole pandemic, is that we met at all in the first place. But I think, was it through Amy Porterfield's course that we met?
It was through a Facebook group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which Facebook group?
I think it was is it She Podcasts?
Oh,
Is
was
that the word?
it? Oh, okay. Right. It was through that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. So, but I would never have been involved on that, but for the pandemic. So there have been some plus sides to the pandemic. Let's face it.
Absolutely. Well, Serena, thank you so much for your time today. This is going to be a great episode again, I'm sure. I love it. It was great to catch up. And so the next time we've already agreed, we're going to do this like twice a year because I want to see how things are going. So perfect.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. Well, it's been my pleasure.
You guys, it was such a great, fun interview. I really just appreciated the time with her. And we do plan to do this a couple times a year to do some check-ins. How are things going on both sides of the big pond? And it'll be interesting and fun to see how things evolve over time in our own communities. So one of the things I'd encourage you to do is get out and check new people. Check on your friends who are out there in different locations and reconnect. This way technology is working so well, especially when it works like it's supposed to. If it works like it's supposed to, it works really well. Like, make new connections, find out what's going on in their communities, and find those common threads that we can certainly talk about, and have some fun with it. Have some fun with it. One of the things we did not get to talk about in this interview that we realized is horse racing. Horse racing is really big in England, just like it is in Kentucky, here in my area. And I had recently went to the races, and it was the end of the spring meet. And so she had also told me at this time they still have not opened up the meets, the horse racing for the public. I'm like, oh dang, the Derby that would have been rough around here. Nope, that would not have happened. So it would be interesting to have more conversations with her and do the comparisons back and forth. So I hope you got a lot out of this. I hope you appreciate just the fun aspect of this podcast, as well as the informative and its business information, and just sharing business stories. So if you have a business story that you want to share, please connect with me. I want to hear all about it. And as you are finding your favorite episodes and your favorite channels, remember to subscribe to your favorite listening or viewing channel, if you will. We're all on YouTube, and we're on Facebook, and we have the easiest thing to do is just go to smallbusinesssmalltalk.com. That's smallbusinesssmalltalk.com, and you can find all of the information there to be able to connect into all of your favorite channels, everything from Spotify and iTunes and Podcast Addict to YouTube. So with that, I thank you so much for your time today. I hope you like this episode, and give us a review, give us a shout out, let us know what you think and what's going on with you as well. And with that, I've been your host, Christy Smallwood. Again, thank you for your time today, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Small Business Small Talk.